The first El Clasico of the season just ended, and Barcelona lost 2-1 to Real Madrid. It was a game where Barcelona could have easily been beaten by 4 to 5 goals if Madrid had converted their chances, but they ran away as 2-1 losers. And it's flattering not just to how Barcelona played, but to how Xabi Alonso set up his team. You're welcome to X's and O's, where we talk the X's and O's of sports, football, basketball, and any other sports that involve tactics. For Barcelona today, it was a game many Barcelona fans knew they were going to lose. Not because they're a lesser team than Real Madrid, but because of a number of issues. First, Barcelona has a lot of injury worries, from Robert Lewandowski to Rafinha to Dani Olmo, and even guys like Alejandro Balde and Lamine Yamal, who are just returning to the side after being out of the side for weeks. There's also a structural problem that Barcelona has failed to address this season. Last season, we enjoyed watching Barcelona play because of how exciting they were. The highline, which formed the crux of a lot of conversations on many media channels, was exploited as best as teams could, but did not leave them vulnerable. They scored more goals than they conceded, and it sort of papered over the crack of how this team is built. Now, you also need to understand that for Barcelona and how Hansi Flick wants the team to play, the high line was important. If the high line wasn't there, the high pressing that Barcelona wants under Flick would not be as effective as he wants it. So it was either you play the high line or you stayed more conservative in your style. But this season, everything has been found out. Now, for Barcelona fans, it is not nice to say that you've been found out, because you like to think as Barcelona that everything works in your favor, but no, it doesn't. For example, the exit of Inigo Martinez has opened a lot of gaping holes in Barcelona's defense. Not because Martinez was the best defender Barca has ever had, but because of his ball playing abilities and his connection with Pau Cubarsí, he was able to first help in building from the back, and two, be defensively disciplined enough to keep a high line. This season, that back four has changed, with Eric Garcia filling in for the place where Martinez was before, or sometimes Ronald Araujo. So it means two things. First, that in how Barcelona play from the back, they have got a limitation. They went all the way last season, at the end of last season, to bring in Joan Garcia, and it was a good deal from Espanyol. But unfortunately for them, he has been injured for a while now, which means that Wojciech Szczesny has been the one filling in that position. And Wojciech is not the best guy you want to play with when you're playing from the back. So again, it means that how Barcelona plays in terms of playing from the back has been reduced. Teams now press them high, knowing that the possibility of them making mistakes are higher. First, because there are two centre backs in Eric Garcia and Pau Cubarsí, while good and not the most physically dominant of defenders. Two, they also know that Wojciech Szczesny would not exactly pass the ball or make the right passing decisions when he has to. It means that you can always press. And three, with Jules Koundé, who has not been the most confident of player on the ball, especially when he's been pressed, you have three different points of attack from the opposing team on Barcelona when they try to play from the back. And beyond all of this, I think for Barcelona this season also, there has been a decline in form for Lamine Yamal. Last season, he was the bride of everybody. People even said he deserved to win the Ballon d'Or, and that conversation does have some merit. But this season, a lot has happened. First, he has been injured for the better part of the season, barely getting minutes. Therefore, it means that his fitness and mad rhythm is no longer there. But there's also the other part of Lamine Yamal that we don't talk about enough. And while this part might not include or might not be inclusive in our X's and O's conversation, it plays a role in how he performs and how teams perceive him. He has been talking a lot. He spoke a lot last season, but we all thought, he's 18. Well, he was 17 at the time and then became 18. He's a teenager. He's going to learn and grow out of it. But there comes a time where, as a teenager, you need to keep your mouth shut and do the job on the pitch. The thing with talking too much is that when you talk a lot, people expect you to put up the same level of performance on the pitch as what you've said before. And for Lamine Yamal, it's not happening. And it is normal. He is a young player. He's going to go through phases in his career where he'll be high and phases where he will be low. But the problem for him is he has talked a good deal that opposing fans do not like him anymore. Therefore, the attention consistently has been on him, and the demand for him to perform has become higher. But overall, I think Barcelona's problem this season, not just this loss to Real Madrid, is structure. This team do not know how to play without Rafinha. And it's wild to say that Rafinha is the most important player in Barcelona. Why? How he presses. Marcus Rashford has been amazing. Goals and assists coming back-to-back games. But the problem is Rafinha, Robert Lewandowski, and Lamine Yamal had a connection. How they pressed was unique. Although Lewandowski wasn't pressing as high or as good as Hansi Flick would have wanted him to, he was still very important, especially when it came to area balls. We saw several times this season when Barcelona were almost down and out, Lewandowski coming in the second half of the game and having his area presence cause troubles for the opponent. Therefore, it means that without Robert Lewandowski, Barcelona do not have enough aerial presence to cause trouble. And also, like I mentioned before, Rafinha's pressing, his movement in the box 18, and his telepathic understanding with Lamine Yamal makes for a brilliant trio, which Barcelona have been unable to use this season. I saw a stat somewhere that 3 of them have only played 21 minutes combined this season in all competitions. Shows you how injuries and a change of tactics has affected how this team performed. But for Barcelona fans who are angry, many of them already hyperventilating, thinking our season is gone, we are 5 points behind Real Madrid, we looked out of place today against Madrid, I want to say to you, calm down. I understand such vacillating emotions, especially when you lose to a rival as big as Real Madrid. But I also need to understand, like I mentioned before, all of these problems, and we cannot escape the fact that Barcelona players last season did a lot of running. I've said it before, but not on this podcast, that Barca would have to find a way to give these players some breathing space. For example, Pedri is playing every freaking minute. And again, I don't blame Hansi Flick. The players who are supposed to replace him in Gavi and Dani Olmo are injured. Marc Bernal just returned from injury, and you don't want to throw him into the thick of action this early. You don't want him going back to another long-term injury. So for Barcelona, while the injury worries can be credited for how this team performed today and how they've performed this season, I think beyond that, the team is not as structurally capable to beat teams anymore. And if you do not tweak your team, especially with the high line and defensive lapses that the team leaves behind, you would be caught a lot of times by very good teams. And yes, last season was the first time the offside trap was being used, at least for Barcelona, and so a lot of teams could not find their way around it. Now teams are finding their way around it, and it behooves on Hansi Flick to find a solution. Would you stick with your high line, or would you find another solution that ensures that Barcelona is good defensively? If you're going to stick with the high line, whether come hell road or high water, it therefore means that you should be ready to bear the consequences of that high line. And the consequences is 5 points behind Real Madrid. The consequences is losing at home to PSG in the Champions League. The consequences is that fans are sort of beginning to lose faith in the Hansi Flick system. Again, it is too early.